Welcome into the Cris Collinsworth podcast featuring Richard Sherman, who unfortunately today is stuck in practice. Can you imagine? They made him practice. So here we go. We're going to bring in a very special guest. Our friend Brian Westbrook is on the show to talk about all the controversy going on in Philadelphia, little TO stories from the Super Bowl past, and whether or not the Eagles were the Chiefs before the Chiefs, all that different stuff. Then we're going to preview Week 16 with our man George Chahrouri. I'll leave all the drama as to who won last week in your mind, and you'll be able to figure that out here in a little bit. But we want to open with thanking DraftKings Sportsbook for being our sponsor. This is an incredible opportunity. You can use promo code PFF this week to get 100-to-1 odds on any $1 bet. How about that? All right, moving on. Brian Westbrook. All right, joining us, we're excited to have Brian Westbrook on the program today. And Brian, of course, great running back for the Philadelphia Eagles. I got a chance to, my first Super Bowl I ever got to call was probably your first Super Bowl you ever got to play in down in Jacksonville, Florida. And ordinarily you think, oh boy, Jacksonville, it's going to be warm. I rented a house on the beach for the whole week. We were setting it up. It was freezing that whole week. It was so cold. What do you remember about that week?
Well, that's the first thing that I remember. I remember as a team, we're up in cold Philadelphia. We just played the NFC Championship game against the Falcons, and there was a blizzard the day before that game, so it was freezing cold. And so you win that game, and now we get the reward. We get to go down to sunny Florida to Jacksonville and play in the sun and fun type of thing. And really, as a young player, you're not thinking about anything else but Florida. Florida is warm, and all we brought was T-shirts and shorts and those types of things. We get down there, and to your point, it's absolutely freezing. It's cold all week. It's raining. It's miserable. There's really not much to do. And, this is kind of the thing that people don't realize, because you have an advantage when you go to multiple Super Bowls, because you understand the process. You understand staying away for an entire week, being different, you having different things going on. And because as players, we're so used to routine. We're so used to Monday, Tuesday, we're doing our thing. Wednesday, Thursday, install and trying to figure out offenses, what you're going to do with your game plan. Being at the Super Bowl was so different for that. And I just remember being down there, like, we're cold every night. We have absolutely nothing to do. It was just hard for us to get adjusted to being down in Jacksonville.
Yeah, the first Super Bowl we ever were in was in Pontiac, Michigan. It's out, not even in Detroit, not even somewhere where there's something going on. It's Pontiac, and our hotels are way out there and the whole thing. And I was a rookie, and I remember Forrest Gregg gave everybody an 11 o'clock curfew every night of the week. And his speech was, guys, I want you to relax. I want you to enjoy this experience. Just do whatever you would do at home and do it here. I raised my hand. I said, Coach, you take off that 11 o'clock curfew, we'll do exactly what we did at home. By the time we got to game time, we were all so locked up. We sucked that day. It was unbelievable. So just crazy. Hey, there was a couple things. It's interesting. I end up talking about this game all the time because, people I know that were playing in it, whatever. But there were a couple of things that I remember. I want to take them one at a time here. Terrell Owens was coming off the broken leg. And he was mad at me for something I said during the course of the year that year. I can't remember what it was. So he wouldn't interview with us. But I really wish he had, because that was one of the really remarkable stories of all time, is that nobody knew whether he was even going to be able to run or walk, didn't know if he was going to play. And he played a phenomenal game in that day, but we had no stories to reflect on because he wouldn't talk to me.
Yeah. T.O. is one of those guys that has such mental strength. And I'm talking about he can use it for good to play in a game like that on a broken leg. He could also use it for things that I would consider not so good and not talk to the media as far as that goes. But for him to be able to play in that game, no one really understood what went into that. And, he broke his leg earlier in the season. And so he was away from the team for a long time, just trying to get his body right, sleeping in a hyperbaric chamber, having all of his team work on his body just so that he could play in the game. He got a plate put in his leg and screws just so that he can have the chance to play in the game if we made it to the Super Bowl. And then we get down to Jacksonville. And we finally are seeing him, and we're like, oh, T.O. is walking around, looks okay. We're not seeing him practice or anything like that, but we're seeing him moving around just a bit. And as a player, you start to think, oh, we've played 4 or 5 games without the best wide receiver in the game. And if we have that, we add that to what we were doing offensively already, this may be a great opportunity for us. And so I think maybe that Friday we saw him practice just a bit and we saw him moving. And now that gets your juices flowing because now you're getting this great player back on a football team that was playing good football already. And then game time came and he just exploded. I just remember crossers, Donovan hitting T.O. on crossers, him running across the field, running away from people, high knees, running away from people. I mean, to be able to play in that situation, it takes a lot of talent. And we all know how talented T.O. is, but it also takes a lot of mental strength. And he was just special that night. I wish we had a couple more touchdowns for him so we could have won that doggone game. But, I mean, he was special that night. It was just one of those things that fell into place. His injury happened at the right time. If it would have happened 1 week later, he wouldn't have been available. And he was able to rehab his butt off because he's such a strong individual that made him really available to play that evening.
You're talking about him exploding. He wasn't the only one who exploded that day. What happened to Donovan in the huddle?
So the rumors, these are rumors.
We're just talking rumors now.
Yeah, the rumors are that, during the course of the game, Donovan threw up in the huddle. And I'll say this, I've been around Donovan a lot of my years, all of my years in Philadelphia. And when you have a guy that was doing the things that he was doing in that game, I'm talking about running around, making plays with his legs, obviously throwing the ball down the field. On that drive that people feel like he threw up, he actually ended up throwing a touchdown to Greg Lewis on that drive. And so everyone's saying, well, he wasn't in shape and he was sick and he was nervous and all these different things. But they forget about what happened on that drive, that he went down and threw a touchdown to Greg Lewis. And so, it's been a lot of rumors, a lot of hearsay about what happened in the huddle. But I tell you, you will not find a better leader than Donovan McNabb, and that was on and off the field.
Is that one of those huddles that kind of just everybody has their arms around each other and they just kind of tippy-toe to the left?
We just leave, okay, all right. That's enough. We'll figure the play out. We'll figure it out at the line of scrimmage.
Audible, baby. I'm gone. Audible this.
That's right.
Unbelievable. Well, Philadelphia is officially sort of the one of the more interesting places in the National Football League right now because we all love a good quarterback controversy, right? Mm-hmm. That's what everybody likes to talk about. You've had a chance now to see Jalen Hurts for a couple of games and what he's capable of doing. You saw Carson Wentz for a long time. You saw his season in 2017, I think it was, that he was arguably the MVP of the league before he hurt his leg. Your impressions of what's happening in Philadelphia right now?
Well, Chris, the old adage is if you have 2 quarterbacks, you really don't have one. And it's hard. It's a hard situation to be in. I just can't imagine if I'm Carson Wentz, getting your contract, $128 million in June of 2019. And then the summer, the draft of 2020, the Eagles are drafting a quarterback in the second round, especially when you have an offense that needs more talent. You have an offense that needs more receivers, needs more playmakers, needs more offensive linemen. And so the Eagles went ahead and drafted Jalen Hurts. And now I think that started the process of Carson Wentz looking over his shoulder a little bit. And you've been around quarterbacks. You've been around a lot of different players throughout your time. It's the quarterback is a special position. Really, the quarterback and kicker are, in my mind, a special position because when they see another kicker walk into the room or a quarterback walk into the room, that raises their eyebrow like, hold on, what's going on here? Why is that guy here? Because I'm that guy on this football team. And so when that Jalen Hurts was drafted, that kind of started that process. And this season just hasn't gone Carson's way. I mean, there's a lot of different variables, whether you're talking about injuries. I mean, there were games where you had 9 of the 11 starters out of the game. All you had was Carson Wentz and Jason Kelce. I mean, it's hard to compete in today's game like that. There were games where it didn't seem like the coaching as far as the offensive play calls didn't line up with some of the things that Carson does well. Moving, getting him on the edge and outside of the pocket usually is a good thing for him. And then there were just games where you just have to be honest, where Carson did not play very well. He didn't throw the ball very accurately. He didn't make very good decisions. He's holding the ball too long. And so when you combine all those things, it's almost like a perfect storm in a bad situation for Carson Wentz. And now, a couple of weeks ago, Doug said, okay, Carson, things aren't going well. Let's play the rookie. Let's see what he has. Can he give us a spark? And Jalen Hurts comes in and does exactly what he did in college. Be a leader, be poised in the pocket, have great presence, command the offense, have a spark. And so now he's doing all those things in the same season where your starter, their franchise guy, Carson Wentz, has struggled mightily. And now you have this big-time quarterback controversy, especially after the game last week, where he, in my opinion, he outdoed Kyler Murray. He was certainly going touchdown for touchdown, pass for pass with Kyler Murray. And now you have to ask the question, what do you do next year? I mean, there's a lot of questions about the coach, about the GM. The question now is, okay, Carson has this big, salary cap situation. You have a young quarterback that's played well these last couple of games. What do you do at this point? And it's not a great place to be in. The Eagles are going to have to make some serious decisions this year because they got a young guy in Jalen Hurts that can really spin the ball. He gets guys inspired, which you kind of saw with Tua early in the season when he came in. I mean, just think about it. I kind of relate these two stories together. When Tua came in, his defense played better. I mean, they were playing good already, but his defense stepped up. They scored a touchdown. His special team scored a touchdown the first game. This second game, the defense scored another touchdown. They helped, and he helped to inspire that football team. Same type of thing that we're seeing here with Jalen Hurts. Now we have to figure out, is this sustainable with Jalen Hurts, or is this something that may be a flash in the pan, or, and he's not going to be the leader for next year? A very difficult decision for the Philadelphia Eagles franchise.
Yeah, you brought up the inspiring others, and I think it was the first game back where was it Jalen Reagor who had the punt return and kind of sparked the team a little bit. The defense played better. I have not met Jalen Hurts yet. I watched him play plenty in college, and one of the things the PFF numbers pointed out was that this guy, he may not have been, I don't know, people didn't look at him as like, oh, he's this great passer, right? They thought of him more as a runner kind of a guy. And yet when you went back, he was one of the most accurate quarterbacks that came out that season. Now, Oklahoma does a great job getting people open and they have great players. I understand that. But it's still the job of the quarterback to get the ball to the right place and to make plays and to make that happen. But the thing that I think you've hit upon that is the most interesting to me is that, there were the stories going around about Carson Wentz and his leadership, and there was that newspaper article and all that kind of stuff. And I tend to just dismiss those, right? And yet you can almost read between the lines a little bit about the team's feelings about Jalen Hurts. Is that true? Is that, in your opinion, does that play into this a little bit?
Well, I certainly do. And, I've talked to a lot of players and I read those same type of articles. And, unfortunately, there seems to be a disconnect between some players and Carson Wentz, his ability to lead. And you know it better than anyone that a big part of the NFL, a big part of team sports is your best player inspiring and getting the best play from those around him. I mean, that's just a big part of the game. And there are just times where you have to question the desire to play for Carson Wentz. And I hear it all week long on Twitter. Well, Alshon didn't want to play for Carson, but he wants to play for Jalen, which I think is kind of crazy because as a player, I just want to be productive. I want to go out there and win games, not only for my quarterback, but for myself, most importantly. And it looks like guys are playing harder. It looks like guys want it more. And, Carson, he's been a lightning rod for controversy over the last couple of years. I mean, there's been a lot of crazy reports, him being selfish, him not being, open to talk to some of the older players in the league and take advice from them. And that's just something that in this league, you have to be able to do. You have to be able to learn from the vets. I mean, I learned how to play in the NFL, how to be a professional from the vets in this league. And all the guys that I've talked to on the Eagles this year, last year, last couple of years, there's been a good portion of them that have said similar things, that Carson has just been hard to deal with in certain situations. And he has to learn how to take leadership from other guys that have been around it a little bit more and not be as selfish. And some of those things are repeated in those articles that you're speaking about. And so there are times when that happens, guys want to hear that fresh voice, that guys want to hear, a different voice in that locker room and in that huddle as well. And they respond to that. And I think that's what we've seen from Jalen Hurts as well.
Frank Reich was a big part of the success that Carson Wentz had as well. Of course, goes off to be the Indianapolis Colts head coach. And don't ever want to take away anything from Doug Peterson and the job that he's done there. But sometimes there's an offensive coordinator that just connects with guys, right? They kind of have a connection. And what Frank Reich is like. He's a very low key, soft spoken, very faithful kind of guy. Do you think they miss Frank in Philadelphia?
Well, I think Carson certainly does. It's obvious to me that Carson and Frank had a great relationship. They were able to see things with one mind. And that's so important to play callers and their star player, the quarterback. I mean, just think of great teams, the Chiefs. When you look at Andy Reid or Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes, it seems like they're seeing things the same way. They know exactly where the ball needs to go. They know exactly what they're trying to get out of these plays. And that's a bond. And when you have that bond, you really play better. That's just what it is. And it seems like Carson's play, combined with some of the injuries. I mean, you gotta look at this too, that he tore an ACL and he broke his back. I mean, those are injuries that can slow you down tremendously in your days playing football. And when you start combining some of these things that are going on, the injuries, the Frank Reich not being there, some of the teammates not being as confident in the quarterback. And again, this is the perfect storm. This is a bad situation. But when you talk about Frank Reich in particular, he got the best out of Carson. And players are absolutely able to recognize that one guy or that group of guys that can get the best out of me, that can pull the best out of me. And generally, they play better with those guys. And you want to be around those guys as often as you can, because that's when you play your best.
You hit on Andy Reid, and I know you know him well, and you played for him. And I don't think anybody is surprised that Andy Reid is doing well. But are you surprised he's doing this well in Kansas City? He was always the almost guy, right? He was the yeah, but guy, as John Madden used to say. He had all these wins, but he'd never won the championship. And now everybody's looking at Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy like they're the greatest coaches that ever walked on the face of the earth. It's amazing what that change of scenery and maybe Patrick Mahomes has done for him.
Well, Chris, you're right. I love Andy Reid. I love the guidance that he gives young players and really old players as well. I love that he stays connected with guys that played with him years ago. I haven't played in 10 years, Chris. I haven't played before Andy Reid since 2009. And when we see each other, I can text him today and he'll get right back to me. It's a brotherhood. It's a father-son relationship. It's a man-to-man relationship. He helped me through my younger years in the NFL. And without his guidance in so many different places, I probably wouldn't be the man or player that I was at the time. And he didn't do it for me. He did it for 52 other guys on a football team every single year. So he's a special coach. But you're right. He has reinvented himself. That offense that they're running kind of looks like the offense that we ran back in Philly, but it's taken a whole different level. It's gone to a whole different level. And for a guy that loves routine, a guy that loves doing the same thing every day, writing with his red pen every single day, putting it behind his ear, having notes on a little cue card every single day, a guy that is all about routine. For him to be able to change and add to his philosophy and look totally different from year to year, from team to team, that's just tremendous. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you have someone special. When you have someone special like Patrick Mahomes that can do all the things that he can do, make all the throws, make all the good decisions. He's going to lead from the front. He's going to be the guy that can stand up in front of the team and inspire them to be better. When you have that guy, really the sky is the limit. You can't draw up a play. You can't scheme up a play design that he can't get done. And you have, of course, you have the horses around him. You have the best tight end in football, one of the most explosive players in the league and Tyreek Hill. You just got a bunch of other fast guys running around. Just go be fast, go run around and confuse defenses. It's hard for Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid to be wrong in some situations. And every single week you look at them like, wow, I didn't know that they even had that type of play in their arsenal. And they just continue to put up points. It's been amazing to watch.
I can remember when Andy Reid was the only guy in the league that was throwing the ball 60% of the time. And I was on so many shows then I can't remember which one we were talking about it on, but it was everybody thought he was crazy. Like, you can't win football games throwing it 60% of the time. And one year, I think you had 90 catches or something like that coming out of the backfield. But he was ahead of the curve where a lot of people thought he was like, what are you doing? Right? Yeah. Do you remember all that stuff?
Oh, I remember it very well because I was in the backfield like, Coach, we can just run the ball from time to time and just make things better. But you're right. Look at all the offenses in the NFL right now. They're throwing to the running back out of the backfield. That's what we were doing years ago. They're throwing it 60 plus, percent of the time, all the time. We're seeing the past what we were doing years ago. Andy Reid has inspired some of these young coaches, and really, you don't even recognize it at times. You talk about Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, some of the things that they're doing. It's not necessarily exactly the way that Andy did it, but he certainly has. You can see the inspiration in some of the things that they're doing there. Of course, Doug and Matt Nagy all have come up underneath Andy's tree as well. And so, it's one of those things where, Andy has figured it out before everyone else. And now everyone else is kind of catching up to him. And as people are catching up to him, he goes and finds one of the best quarterback prospects that the league has ever seen, and he takes it up to another level. And it's really, I'm one of those guys that are so happy for Andy. I'm so happy for Patrick. He's one of those guys that I've met a few times, and he's just been a joy to be around. I love Eric Bieniemy. He was there with us in Philadelphia for a few summers as well, and that staff. I know a bunch of guys there. It's just good to see good guys win. I mean, we live in a world now where you wonder if it's worth it doing good at times. And to see good guys win, it's a good thing for me. So
yeah, cool. I'm with you. And speaking of good guys, you hit on one of my favorites, and Eric Bieniemy, and he's he's not the play caller, which is always a knock against him. Mm-hmm. Of course, if you're not the offensive coordinator, then that's a knock against you. Nobody wants to hire the defensive coordinator because you still have to go find an offensive coordinator. So no matter who it is, I can find a knock against you. There's a traditional way of doing that. But Eric he's a dynamic leader, right? He's a running back coach and offensive coordinator. But he has sat in the room, in that beautiful mind room in there with Andy Reid and probably consumed a few too many soft drinks while he was in there. But my buddy, I saw him tease him a little bit, but he has a chance right now, right? Because the whole league is going to be about taking one of these young quarterbacks and developing them quickly. And when you look at what they've done with Patrick Mahomes, when you look at their play design and how they've taken advantage of a young, mobile kind of quarterback, how do you think that Eric's going to do when he gets a shot? Because he's going to get a shot this year. There's no doubt in my mind.
Well, I think you hit on the number one thing. He's a leader of men. I think of guys like Deuce Staley, who I believe she deserves an opportunity as well. I think of Mike Tomlin. I think of Ron Rivera. I think of Andy Reid. I think of their ability to say, this is the way we're moving. Everybody follow me. And everybody's like, okay, let's go. I'm going to follow this guy because this is the way that we should be moving. And he's that type of leader. I know that he's one of those guys similar to Andy Reid that can coach every position. And then it's weird because I don't know that the public even thinks about this. But Andy Reid, as a head coach, he would coach the offensive lineman on technique because he knew that game so well. He would teach them on footwork. He would say the same things on running backs, catching the ball and seeing the zone reads, things like that. He would coach up the wide receivers on their steps and how to get open. He has the ability, and same thing with Eric Bieniemy, has the ability to coach every position on offense and defense. And when you have that ability, you get so much more credibility with the guys that you're trying to lead. And now, again, it goes back to that inspiring and leading part. When you have a guy that knows the game inside and out, offense and defense, special teams as well, and he has that voice. He has the ear of the team. Now you can follow him. Now he can inspire you. And when you look around the league, just think about the teams that are not playing very well, the teams that aren't winning. You got to look at the leader. Look at the guy that's leading those teams. Is he a leader of men? Is he a guy that can inspire and get guys to follow him in the right direction? Does he understand things? Can he see? Can he develop players? All these things are things I know that Eric Bieniemy are strong at. I know that he can develop a young quarterback. He can give, and he has the mindset to be able to develop them and then push them along to be the better quarterback, the better player, the best type of player that they can be. And just being around Andy, that's meaningful. Being around him, that's meaningful. Being in that room, the thought process, the way that you go about your business, that means something. I'm excited for EB this year. This certainly should be his year that he's going to get an opportunity to be a head coach. And I mentioned my guy, Deuce Staley. He's cut from the same cloth. Same type of thing, same type of leader. Both of those guys should deserve an opportunity here in the near future.
You know, it's so interesting. I already had the whole world laid out for Eric. He was going to go to the Jets. You know, they were going to draft Trevor Lawrence. He was going to build the whole Kansas City Chiefs things. And then we're driving to the game the other night. And I'm saying, this is so stupid. The NFL has to come up with a draft lottery. You can't just let the worst team take the top pick, because you're going to have teams that are going to intentionally try to lose. Mm-hmm. You know, we already had the thing with Greg Williams giving up the cover zero bomb against the Raiders earlier this year. I go, this is just bad for the league. And then the Jets beat the Rams in Los Angeles and kind of restored my faith in everything competitive that is the National Football League. But what do you think about that? Or do we have the right system right now as far as how we draft?
Well, Chris, this is just my thought as a player, and not even just an analyst, a guy that's looking at the game. As a player, I find it really hard for me to go out there and work my butt off every single day to try to get better, to perfect my craft, so that in the end, at the end of the day, everyone wants to win, and usually good play leads to winning. Winning leads to dollars and cents in your pocket. That's the goal of all the players. You play to win, but at the end, you want to make some money doing it too. And so it's just hard for me to think that guys will go out there and lose on purpose. You mean I don't run as fast? I'm dropping balls on purpose? Well, that ends up hurting my bottom line. That ends up hurting me as a player. And yeah, it's going to help the team advance and maybe the draft. But as a player, you can't tell me that the guys on the Jets aren't going out there every single week trying to improve and get better. They got to go to work every day like I used to go to work. And it's not easy going to work out here in New York when it's 30 degrees outside and you're outside in a helmets and shoulder pads trying to play football. So I think every week those guys try to win. They're certainly not on board with tanking for Trevor Lawrence. And we saw that in the game where they had a few opportunities to get the ball back, to score, and they were able to take advantage of it. They've been trying to win all season long. Now, if you want to talk about tanking, that may be a management thing. I personally, and I don't know Greg Williams, my brother played for him down in Washington. And just from hearing those stories, I wasn't surprised by going zero blitz in that situation at all. And to me, had nothing to do with tanking. That had everything to do with Greg Williams. That's his personality. That's who he is. So I kind of agree with the system that we have right now. Kind of a long way to say that. I agree with that system because if you are the worst team in football, you need the number one draft pick. Not because you're trying, like in basketball, you could just put the worst team out there and then maybe you just won't win any games. But in football, you physically can get hurt. There's no guaranteed contracts. And that one guy that you're saying, okay, you go tank. He's like, well, I may not be playing next year if I don't play well. And so to me, the system probably is right. My feelings about it were kind of restored the same way yours were Sunday night.
Well, I'm not going to say that Jacksonville has decided to tank to get Trevor Lawrence from here, but they did call me and ask me to play quarterback this week. I don't know if it has anything to do with anything, but they did give me that call, and I'm considering
it. They called me too. That's the funny thing. They called me too.
Oh, my God. Jacksonville had to be sitting there going, oh, come on. This is not going to happen. The Rams are still going to win. And then they're like, oh, my God. Because literally, nobody knows, right? Nobody knows. But my PFF boys tell me this is like one of those generational guys that, his ability to run, his throws, his experience now in big games, his production in big games, is that Jacksonville now, if they lose 2 games, is going to get one of those generational quarterbacks to play. And I would have loved to have been in the room when that final score came across that the Jets beat the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, I know the owner for the Jaguars is jumping up and down because, to your point, this type of player, Trevor Lawrence, can change the fortune of your entire franchise. I mean, it just changed it completely. I mean, think of guys, generational guys, Patrick Mahomes. Now, the Chiefs, when Andy Reid first got there, were not a very good team. They had a bunch of good players. They had 5 or 6, 7 Pro Bowlers on that team. But when you bring in a great coach and then a generational talent, it changes the fortune. Now, I feel like every game the Chiefs should win. They should win the Super Bowl for the next 5 years because they have the best player in the league. Same type of thing in Arizona. Look how quickly that team changed around. You bring in Cliff Kingsbury, you bring in Kyler Murray. In a couple of years, now you are at least viable, at least that people aren't saying, oh, it's the same old Cardinals. So you're right. Jacksonville now has an opportunity to lose a couple more games and get a guy that can certainly change that franchise around. And I'm sure they'll find a new coach to try to bring him up. And now it's about putting structure around him. Now it's about putting good players around him. If you can do that, then the Jaguars can be a totally different franchise in just a short period of time.
You're on First Comes First. Am I saying that right? Is that the
First Things First?
First Things First, and you're on Fox Sports 1 in the morning at 7:30 Eastern?
Yep, in the morning from 7:30 Eastern with Nick Wright, Kevin Wiles, Brandon Marshall, and Jenna Wolf. So we're talking sports, we're talking football. We're doing the same thing that we're doing every single day, talking about our game that we all love and appreciate.
Well, you are really, really good at it. I really appreciate the fact that you took a little bit of your time during the holiday seasons to come on. And I hope we get a chance to visit down the road because you are a talent. So thank you, Brian. I enjoyed you as a player, and I think I might like you even more as a broadcaster. You're pretty damn good at this.
Well, thank you so much, Cris. You continue to be the gold standard, the inspiration for us all. We appreciate you and what you bring to our Sunday nights every single week. We thank you. We certainly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Enjoyed it, pal. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you to Brian Westbrook. He was fantastic, and poor Richard Sherman has to practice. What do these coaches think? I mean, what do they think that they're more important than our podcast? Come on.
It's ridiculous.
Okay, so here we go. All right, George Chahrouri is here, and we're going to because I am now the reigning champion of the pick segment. I just want to put it out there. I went 500 and I'm the reigning champion. But before we do that, we want to talk about our wonderful, wonderful sponsors here, DraftKings and the DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. And they rolled out another one of those can't miss offers because we all know the 2021 basketball season is here. People are fired up, right? They want to see LeBron again. The teams around the league. They took the off season, which was a week and a half, something like that. They retooled, they revamped, they're back on the court. So now the DraftKings Sportsbook app is offering you can bet $1. You bet $1 and you get 100-1 odds on that bet, on whatever you want. How can you lose? You can't miss, right? That's like you just come in there, you take $1, you get 100-1 odds. All you have to do is use the promo code PFF and get 100-1 odds. How easy is that?
It's very easy. The thing I'm most excited for is the James Harden thing. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of James Harden, but he managed to put on 45 pounds in the 2-week off season while visiting clubs in Atlanta and Las Vegas. So I probably won't be using that $1 into $100 bet on the Houston Rockets.
Clubs. He's been going to golf clubs. Yes.
Actually, his words were that the reason he went to those cities is that's where his trainers were. Because it would make sense that James Harden.
Trainer, so maybe that's everybody has their own way of training.
It makes perfect sense. But there's also football. The playoffs are right around the corner. One of my favorite things about the DraftKings Sportsbook app is that they have odds boosts on every Sunday. So you can run in there and you can check out which games they've got boosted. And if you pair that with a PFF subscription, you can, kind of play the game the right way, right? Take the odds boosts that make it most in your favor. It's very simple. As you said, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use promo code PFF, and then go check out the featured basketball matchups this week. Bet $1, get $100, and then be smart about how you invest that other $100. Promo code is PFF, and that's for all new players. It's for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
Or just stop gambling. That would be good. Here we go.
Not an option. Not an option for me.
If that's not an option, now if you're addicted, I guess it's not. It is interesting because now that I've kind of got the bug here a little bit too, because I can't gamble, right? I'm broadcasting the game. People would think I had inside information, but really all I've got is you. You tell me what I would do, and then I do that. But I am now, we've only been tracking it for 1 week. I am the champion at 2-2-1 last week. You had a rough go. You had 1-3-1, and you didn't even get to bet against Pittsburgh. So that's probably why you lost.
I'm downtrodden. I'm down. I'm not out. Look, on the season, you have me by about like 0.6%.
That's all I need.
So I'm making a comeback this week. Here was the interesting thing. The real swing was the Cardinals-Eagles game.
Yeah.
It was 6.5. The game ended as a 7-point difference. You obviously had the Cardinals. I had the Eagles. I feel like my process was good, Chris. So I'm going to keep rolling with it.
So was mine, I guess.
Yeah, right.
So there you go. I mean, these guys in Vegas are so good. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
If you can go over 52, 53%, like you're doing a really solid job. That's impressive.
I'm at 50%. So I'm getting ready to go on a hot streak here. All right. The Vikings against the Saints, and the Saints a 7-point favorite, right? Mm-hmm. And we've got the Saints now at 10-4. They came close a week ago, but no go. And what about Drew Brees here? What are they going to do with Drew Brees? He's obviously not quite healthy. I mean, he did laugh out loud when he was asked that question in the post game. So they took their shot, right? They were going for the number 1 seed, the whole thing. May not be able to get it now, especially I think Green Bay would just has to win 1 game the rest of the way because they did beat the Saints earlier this year. So what do you do with Drew Brees now? Is he playing?
I think based on what I can tell, Drew Brees is too competitive to not play. I mean, you'd probably know better than I would there, but I find it would be really weird for him to come back for that 1 game and then go back to the bench and re-heal all 7 of the ribs that are still broken or whatever. But for that reason, I will take the Vikings getting 7 points. This is the same matchup from last year's playoffs where Kirk Cousins shocked the world. And this is crazy to say, the Minnesota Vikings have better offensive weapons than the New Orleans Saints. We both love Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is our favorite running back. But Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen are both top 5 graded guys. And the Saints are without Michael Thomas. So I think Kirk Cousins, the better quarterback, getting 7 points here.
I'm going to take the Vikings too. I don't trust the process in New Orleans enough right now. I could see maybe they even want to take a look at Jameis, or they want to, give Drew a week off and then play him the week before the playoffs, or more than likely they'll probably play him this week and give him next week off. Yeah. So he's probably going to play. All right, there we go. That's what I need to do. Get inside the head of Sean Payton. That's always fun to try to do. All right, 49ers again. I love Sean. He's a great guy. 49ers against the Cardinals, and the Cardinals 4.5-point favorites. Now that I know that the 49ers are the team to put me over the top, they're my new favorite team. And I got to say, the one guy I feel a little bit sorry for this year is Robert Saleh. His defense, again, rock solid. And yet here in this year, he's probably still going to get a head coaching job, but it's been rough, right? Because the offensive side, with all the injuries, with all the different things, and talk about who's going to play quarterback. Who is going to play quarterback for the 49ers? It could be any of them. It
could be you or me. It's going to be CJ Beathard, I believe. And you said this is 4.5. On DraftKings Sportsbook, I think now you can get it at 5. So People are betting on the Cardinals. That's not surprising. On Sunday night or Monday morning, 1:30 in the morning, it was like 3.5. And Eric and I talked about the value being on the Cardinals. But I'm struggling here at 5 because you know how much faith I have in Kyle Shanahan and what he can do with any set of players. But you were right. You were very right. Last week I asked you, is Kyler Murray healthy? The answer is yes. Kyler Murray is healthy.
Yeah, but I saw C.J. Beathard come off the bench, and he can throw it now. This guy, he throws it better than Mullins does. But Mullins is kind of that guy they like that they trust him. I think that's probably the best word. Is there any chance we see Jimmy G this weekend?
That I guess could be in play. They can bring him off, but. This is why we needed Richard. We need Richard involved in these. He can give us some inside information. I guess that's exactly what the NFL doesn't want.
He's our inside talent. So we had to give him the week off. There you go. All right, who are you taking?
Man, at 4.5. Oh man, I'm gonna take the better quarterback. I'm gonna take Kyler Murray. He's our 11th graded quarterback. That's after a couple of bad weeks. I don't feel good about it.
I'm taking the Cardinals too. The game means too much. I mean, everything's on the line. I mean, we're down to it now. We're 2 weeks. If the Cardinals can't put together something special here, they got a problem. Speaking of putting together something special and a problem, the Colts are going to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers, your beloved Pittsburgh Steelers. Mm-hmm. And the Steelers are a 3-point favorite. Is that right?
No, our intern might be in trouble here because this is a completely wrong line. This is flipped. And you know why this is flipped? Because of what happened last night on Monday Night Football.
Of course. Everything Colts flipped last night.
The Colts are a 1.5-point favorite now on the DraftKings Sportsbook app.
There you go. All right. That makes more sense to me. And so we're beyond with Pittsburgh now. This is they got caught off guard. They had a bad day. We're past all that, right? This is 3 straight losses after starting the year undefeated. How bad does this get? You've been down on the Steelers for a month, and you pretty much nailed this one.
Yeah, I took some heat. Players came after me on Twitter. Maybe they should have focused more on improving the things that they needed to improve, because I just listened to the math, Cris. It wasn't like things were hiding from people. Everyone looked at the record, but Ben Roethlisberger was not grading well. He was not throwing the ball downfield. And here's the key thing. This is what I always look at. How does a team do on 1st and 2nd down? Because 3rd downs can be very noisy. And if you're playing a bunch of bad teams, you can get away with some good 3rd down variance. They have consistently been a mid-20s team on offense on 1st and 2nd down, and that has continued. So it's not surprising. It surprised me they lost to the Bengals. Yes, I give you that. But the fact that they're no longer like even really a top 10 team does not surprise me. I am continuing to ride this train. I was levitating last night. I'm a block away from the stadium. I was hovering over the stadium, yelling at Big Ben, and I'm taking the Colts here.
Is Jonathan Taylor good enough to carry the load here? I mean, is it, against this defense, is he good enough? He's had a great year, right?
Well, what do you think about that offensive line? Because
I remember them going into Kansas City that game we did, and just really doing a number physically in there in that game. And Jonathan Taylor, he can run, right? He's
great,
fast and he's big. He's all those things. He's not that elusive kind of guy, he's not like a shake and bake kind of guy, but man, when he gets in the open field, he can get things done. I just think since Bud Dupree went out, that defense has changed a little bit. They, now they can slide a little bit more to TJ. I'm going the Colts. I'm going with the Colts. I'm sorry.
Do you think maybe Bud Dupree shouldn't have called me a computer geek on Twitter?
No, I think that's about right. All right, Rams. Who are you taking anyway? Do I have to?
I'm going Colts. Are you going Colts?
I'm going Colts. Are we all the same so far?
Yeah, it seems that you're trying to you have a lead and you're trying to maintain it by picking the same picks. I see you.
Like you're a mathematician. You had to do the math to figure that out.
Yeah. Okay.
Here we go. Rams against the Seahawks here.
Big one.
Russell Wilson has fallen off a little bit. Can we say that? He's fallen. He was on the MVP track right now. I think universally there's only two guys, right? I mean,
it's Rodgers and Mahomes.
I mean, any Derrick Henry, Chatter, Tyreek Hill, Chatter. Okay.
Stop it.
So, but please tell me what is wrong with the Rams. Tell me how a Rams offense, or you can take the Rams defense. How does this Rams dominant defense all of a sudden get beat up by Sam Darnold? Or how does the Rams offense every fourth game?
Yeah.
Just not to get on the bus. How does that happen?
It's the Jared Goff roller coaster. So he has 7 games this season with a PFF grade of 75 plus. That's very good. And he has 4 games with a grade below 55. That's really bad. And that's kind of the thing with Jared Goff, where Sean McVay can have a great game plan, but Jared Goff is just not going to execute it every time. Here's what I'm going to say about defense. I've talked to a couple people about this, and I'm excited to hear your opinion on it. If you go through the season, there's like 7 or 8 teams that have been ordained the best defense in the NFL, and all of them have come crumbling back to earth at some point. We had the Saints, we've had the Bears, we had the Bucs, we've had the Colts, we've had the Steelers, and the Rams were the darling. People were talking about, oh, this is the team that can stop the Chiefs. Defense is just a hard thing to predict. And so my question, the last time we saw the Rams Seahawks, Jalen Ramsey shut down DK Metcalf. And that to me is the key battle. Like, who are you taking here, Jalen Ramsey or DK Metcalf?
I'm taking Jalen Ramsey.
Okay.
We saw it. Metcalf is a monster when he can physically intimidate across the line of scrimmage. You're not physically intimidating Jalen Ramsey. You're not in any way intimidating Jalen Ramsey. So, and I think he's such a key part of everything that they do with Russell. And I'm going to do the whole bounce back thing. I'm going to do the Rams, and I don't even have a great reason for it. The Seahawks defense now is playing better.
There you go.
Games back. You know what's going to happen here, right?
Yes.
Pete Carroll, they're going to be old school Seahawks here, especially. But the Seahawks also are a team that could go into Green Bay and create a little bit of an issue, because these other teams are all Southern teams, right? They got to show up and it's 0 degrees in Green Bay. What are the Saints doing? What's Tampa going to do? What is, these are more warm weather teams that it's going to be interesting to see, how the Rams would play up there or Arizona would play up there. So we'll see.
So this is Seahawks -2 on the DraftKings Sportsbook. It's 47.5 is the total. I can't choose a side. I think the Rams are the right side. I agree with you there, but Russell Wilson is way better than Jared Goff. I'm going to go over 47.5. I'm going to fade the fact that the Rams have a really good defense. I think Russell Wilson figures it out. And the Seahawks defense, you said it, they're playing well. That means that they aren't going to be that good going forward. I'll take over 47.5. All
right. I love it. So you're going the over and I'm going the Rams. There you go. All right. Eagles against the Cowboys. The Cowboys on a Titanic 2-game win streak. As we move on here, I'm not sure how they did it, but Andy Dalton against Jalen Hurts, right? I mean, who go figure that's what this one was going to be. What are you thinking with this one?
So the Dallas Cowboys are a home underdog. They are a 2-point underdog. There are some reasons to be a little skeptical of Jalen Hurts. He's thrown a pretty high rate of uncatchable passes. However, their offense is totally different. They're 13th in the league in expected points added per play, which basically says on a per play basis, how much closer do they get to scoring? They were 3rd worst with Carson Wentz. Like, it's just a different team. The fact that he can run the ball legitimately, like, he's not quite Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, but he's very close. And they're creating explosive plays. about 10 plays of 15 plus yards over the last 2 games, which is a dramatic uptick from Carson Wentz. Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in this terrible, terrible, terrible division. The Eagles, I think right now, are the best team in this terrible, terrible division. And they win this game. Give me the Eagles.
How can you bet against Andy Dalton? I just can't do it. Big Red's going to come out. They're going to be firing bullets one more time.
Stop.
It's too bad that the offensive line of the Philadelphia Eagles just fell apart this year. I mean, that was a group that had a chance. If they had Brandon Brooks and Lane Johnson and Jason Peters and all those guys healthy for an entire season, Dillard didn't even play, for them this year. And the Eagles are one of those teams that might just, everybody's going to sleep on them next year because they were so bad this year. But they had so many things go wrong in their core positions up front. But I'm riding the hot streak. I'm going to take the Cowboys. Why not?
All right. Good. This is giving me a chance. I've got a chance now to pick up some ground. And I have Jalen Hurts on my side. I couldn't feel better. I believe in Jalen Hurts. All of Philadelphia believes in Jalen Hurts. Brian Westbrook believes in Jalen Hurts. What can go wrong?
And if he loses, you're gonna Ben Roethlisberger him. I know.
Oh no, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that to my guy. All right, the comeback train begins for me this week. I'm excited about it.
There you go. Well, next week, hopefully we'll get to see Richard. Again, apologies. Richard could not make it because they had practice. And sometimes that happens. Maybe someday I should practice. That'd be good for me too. All right, big guy. We'll see you next week. And hopefully you'll have a better week next week. Because really, it was, we rely on you. We count on you to put us over the top.
Thanks, Cris.
See ya.